July 5th, 2025. In the blistering waters off the coast of Somalia, 31 speedboats filled with 250 pirates launch an assault on a U.S. supply ship. This vessel, quietly transporting crucial supplies to a nearby U.S. aircraft carrier, becomes the target. Armed with rocket launchers and heavy machine guns, the pirates advance with chilling precision. Within mere minutes, they have nearly seized control of the ship. However, they misjudge the adversary they are up against. Suddenly, the sky erupts with sound. 10 MQ-60 Seahawk helicopters carrying 300 elite U.S. Special Forces soldiers equipped with advanced weaponry take to the air. 5 FA-18 Super Hornets and 20 MQ-25 Stingray drones, all locked onto a single target, the pirates' lair. And then America arrived at their doorstep with steel, fire, and fury. There would be no negotiations, no mercy, no time for remorse. Because when you hijack a ship flying the American flag, you're not merely confronting sailors. You're facing the full might of the United States. Join me and discover what fate befell the sailors. In the early morning of July 5, 2025, at 6:12 to be precise, a U.S. aircraft carrier supply ship, disguised as a civilian cargo vessel, was silently navigating through the pirate-infested waters off Somalia to render support. On board were 10 lightly armed U.S. sailors safeguarding a ship carrying fuel and a classified explosive compound essential for powering F-35s and long-range cruise missiles on aircraft carriers. This was more than mere cargo. It was the lifeblood of a U.S. aircraft carrier strike group. Suddenly, the cargo ship's alarm blared. 31 speedboats racing at over 50 knots. Each vessel was manned by 8 pirates equipped with RPGs, heavy machine guns, and bayonets. Over 240 assailants, seasoned by years of piracy and combat experience. This was not a random strike. It was a strategically coordinated military-style assault. The pirates divided into multiple attack units. One faction employed rocket-propelled grenades and ship-mounted artillery to suppress the Americans, compelling them to seek cover. A second faction targeted the ship's blind spots, hurled hooks, and descended aboard. The crack of gunfire shattered the tranquil sea. The American security forces returned fire from behind steel containers. In under 4 minutes, the ship spiraled out of control. 5 Americans lost their lives. 3 were critically injured. The pirates surged onto the bridge and seized control. The remaining sailors and soldiers were bound with tow ropes and forced to lie on the deck at gunpoint. Yet one action altered everything. Before his capture, the ship's captain, a former Navy lieutenant, activated a silent distress signal. This signal was sent directly to the nearest American carrier group patrolling less than 200 kilometers away. The pirates were oblivious to the fact that they were celebrating. They believed they had merely captured another supply ship for ransom. They had no clue they had seized a crucial line of American naval firepower. And most importantly, they were unaware that hundreds of American fighters were airborne and closing in rapidly. A stern-faced Rear Admiral Sloan approached the podium and conveyed a straightforward message. No one seizes a U.S. naval asset, no one threatens our supply lines without facing repercussions. But now, it was time for the American warfighters to reclaim the ship inch by inch. To the casual observer, it appeared like a dilapidated cargo, ship slow, silent, and utterly forgettable. Yet hidden beneath its metal decks was one of the most crucial assets in the U.S. Navy's supply chain. Officially known as Logistics Vessel 72 Delta, the ship transported high-density jet fuel, missile stabilizers, thermal ignition compounds, and encrypted avionics components for the nearby carrier strike group operating in the Arabian Sea. Without this vessel, the carrier's F-35 fighters would be grounded and its missile systems would be inoperative. It was a floating fuel line, a mobile arsenal, and a high-value target one that the Navy never anticipated would end up in enemy hands. The pirates were unaware, but by capturing this vessel, they had just jeopardized a mission-critical node in the U.S. global strike network. And if those materials were sold or even worse, reverse-engineered, the repercussions would extend far beyond the Indian Ocean. Inside the Pentagon, alarm bells were ringing. The incident was promptly classified as a national security breach. Intelligence officers were concerned that if the pirates unloaded the contents, the materials could be channeled to hostile nations or terror organizations. But time was of the essence. The pirates were now less than 10 nautical miles from their coastal base, a notorious black market hub that had evaded international strikes for years. The U.S. response needed to be swift, overwhelming, and unequivocal. Not only to recover the ship, but to convey a message to every rogue entity on the planet. If you dare to interfere with America's supply lines, you will face America's full retaliation. Stay tuned. What you are about to witness is one of the quickest and most accurate hostage rescues in U.S. military history. At 6:15 a.m., merely 3 minutes after the pirates seized control of the American supply ship, A classified emergency signal illuminated the operations screen on the USS Liberty, the flagship of the strike group located 128 miles to the southwest. In less than 30 seconds, the red alert code, Priority 1, indicating the hostile capture of a high-value naval asset, was dispatched across 3 U.S. Navy vessels and 2 airborne command centers. There was no opportunity for diplomatic negotiations. Rear Admiral Peter Sloan issued the command without a moment's pause. Initiate Operation Thundernet. We proceed immediately. The response was rapid and precise. Aboard the USS Liberty, 10 MH-60 Seahawk helicopters were deployed onto the flight deck, each carrying 30 fully armed Navy SEALs and Marine Raiders. This amounted to a total of 300 elite troops, specifically selected for shipboarding and hostage rescue missions. Concurrently, 5 FA-18 Super Hornets were meticulously prepared with precision-guided bombs and GAU-7A miniguns, capable of unleashing thousands of rounds per minute. In the hangars below, flight crews launched 20 MQ-25 Stingray drones, the latest in AI-driven reconnaissance and strike technology. Each drone was equipped with dual microbomb bays, advanced thermal tracking, and encrypted real-time data feeds directly to the operations tactical hub. Within 9 minutes of the distress signal, the skies over the Indian Ocean erupted into action. 3 waves were launched. The first wave, UAVs, advanced ahead to identify the hijacked vessel and search for escort boats. The second wave, Super Hornets, circled widely, readying themselves to suppress enemy fire from above. The third wave, consisting of Seahawk helicopters, soared low over the sea's surface, clinging to the radar shadow zone. Each flight group was monitored in real time by a satellite and an E-2D Hawkeye early warning aircraft above, guaranteeing total airspace control. Back on the carrier, Admiral Sloan kept a close watch on the digital map. The hijacked supply ship was now merely 8.2 nautical miles from a known pirate compound. If the enemy made it to land, the operation would escalate into urban combat, making it far more dangerous for the hostages. There was no time to waste, no margin for error. This was not just a rescue mission. It was a declaration. And America was poised to deliver it with overwhelming force and unerring precision. Proud to be American? Supporting our heroes? Hit like and subscribe to stay with us. At 7:01 a.m., as the hijacked American supply ship drifted into visual range of the Somali coastline, the sky above it abruptly transformed. From the east, a formation of MQ-25 Stingray drones appeared in complete radio silence. They flew low and swiftly, almost skimming the ocean's surface before assuming attack formation. The lead drone detected 4 pirate escort boats surrounding the hijacked vessel. In mere seconds, each target was marked and locked. Then, the first wave of fire commenced. Precision microbombs cascaded down from the drones, detonating with pinpoint accuracy. The ocean erupted into towering columns of water and fire as all 4 escort boats were obliterated in under 12 seconds. At the same time, 2 FA-18 Super Hornets roared in from a high altitude, executing strafing runs along the ship's port side. Miniguns sliced through the upper deck, tearing apart sandbag emplacements and pirate firing positions. RPGs detonated in midair before they could be launched. Then, like phantoms emerging from the ocean, 10 MH-60 Seahawks materialized from the west, hovering just above the water's edge. Ropes descended. SEALs and Marine Raiders rappelled onto the ship's deck in flawless synchronization. The pirates never had a chance. From bow to stern, the American operators moved like a well-oiled machine. Room by room, deck by deck, they cleared the vessel. One fire team breached the bridge while pirates were taken out before they could lift their rifles. Another team neutralized threats near the engine room using flashbangs and silenced fire. The hostages, bound and bloodied, were swiftly found and extracted to the central deck. Medics stabilized the injured, while SEALs established perimeter defense. In less than 8 minutes, every pirate on board was either dead or captured. Not a single American hostage was lost. But the operation wasn't complete. Over radiocom, drone footage unveiled the pirates' mainland base, just 7 nautical miles inland, a heavily fortified compound with vehicle bays, fuel depots, and radar systems. It had functioned as a black market hub for nearly a decade. Admiral Sloan acted without hesitation. Switch targets. Bring it down. Within moments, 4 more Super Hornets surged inland. They released GBU-32 JDAM bombs onto critical structures, obliterating the main headquarters in a single pass. Secondary explosions illuminated the coastline as fuel caches and munitions depots erupted into fireballs. The final blow descended from above. A Reaper drone unleashed a solitary Hellfire missile upon the command tower. The explosion could be seen for miles. By 7:29 a.m., the base had vanished completely. Over 500 pirates were confirmed dead, with many more either captured or entombed in the debris. The message was unmistakable. Hijacking an American warship is a grave mistake and never, under any circumstances, should one interfere with a U.S. lifeline at sea. The pirate stronghold had endured for years, concealed along the Somali coastline, shielded by a labyrinth of terrain and corruption. It served as their fortress, trading hub, and an inviolable sanctuary. By 7:30 a.m., it lay in ruins. Once the supply ship was secured, the U.S. Navy unleashed its full force on the pirate base. Utilizing real-time UAV surveillance, precise GPS coordinates were transmitted to a secondary strike group circling inland. First, the FA-18 Super Hornets swooped in, flying in a tight combat box formation. At an altitude of 500 feet, they released GBU-32 JDAM's laser-guided bombs that struck with surgical accuracy. The command center was obliterated in an instant. Following this, MQ-9 Reapers entered the fray, each equipped with Hellfire missiles and thermal optics. They zeroed in on bunker entrances and hidden stockpiles. One missile obliterated a concealed weapons cache, igniting a series of violent secondary explosions that engulfed half the compound in flames. Pirates rushed to return fire, but it was futile. Their anti-air defenses were rudimentary, outdated, and overwhelmed before they could even target a single aircraft. Then, the ground assault commenced. From two CH-53 helicopters, Marine raiders charged into the smoldering perimeter, executing a synchronized sweep. Utilizing drone feeds and infrared goggles, they tracked down the last remnants of resistance hiding in the alleys and tunnels. There were no warning shots, no negotiations. Over 500 pirates were neutralized in under 20 minutes. Dozens more those too injured to flee were captured, zip-tied, blindfolded, and airlifted for interrogation. By 8, what had once been a pirate stronghold had transformed into a cratered graveyard. Its skyline now a haze of smoke and twisted steel. The world had just witnessed this event firsthand. And for every pirate, warlord, or rogue nation observing, the message was now etched in flames. You do not engage the United States of America at sea unless you are prepared to vanish from existence. This operation was more than a mere rescue. It served as a strategic reminder. In a world increasingly characterized by asymmetric warfare, piracy, and gray zone conflict, the U.S. Navy demonstrated that logistics is not a sign of weakness, but rather a source of power. A supply ship, frequently underestimated and underprotected, emerged as the nerve center of an entire carrier group's offensive capabilities. And when that link was threatened, America acted without hesitation. It responded with the full spectrum of modern warfare: surveillance, air dominance, special forces, and precision strikes. The pirates thought they could strike swiftly, disappear into the coast, and negotiate from a position of fear. Instead, they discovered the true cost of provoking a superpower. For U.S. military planners, this was also a crucial lesson in readiness. The world's oceans remain contested, and America's global presence is only as robust as its capacity to safeguard the lifelines that sustain it. This wasn't merely about Somalia. This was a severe warning to every adversarial entity on every coast. Strike one vessel, and you should anticipate the might of an entire nation. The rescue of the U.S. supply ship represented more than just a military triumph. It was a proclamation.